Hello, mob family. Good morning. Good morning for me, and whatever it is for you, afternoon, evening, wherever you may be, because I know the mob family, you guys, we're international. International. Hello, and welcome to MoB Kaffeeklatsch, episode 146. Wow. Every time I say these numbers, it just surprises me. How are you all doing? Let me just check the comments because I'm in the wrong side, but let's see how StreamYard and the internet is behaving today, and see how these things are what's happening, and if they're gonna cooperate. All right, let's see who's here. Okay, Chris is here. Hold on, itchy arm. Okay, let's see. Sammy's here. Woo! You made it. Heather, good morning. Mary Beth, good morning. Chris Mendoza, good morning. Enid, good morning. Heather, oh, let's see me. Heather again. Let's see. Good morning. Let's see who else is here. There's 7 people so far. Okay. Hello. Can you guys hear me? Can you see me? Is everything? Dolly's not here, so I am flying solo on this end today. The Technomancer is in the background, making sure everything. Chris, our Technomancer is working, make sure everything flies the way it is, needs to fly. Paige, hola, good morning. Good morning, Mary Beth. How are you all doing? I am currently, we had wonderful thunderstorms yesterday. It was crazy. I'm reading about you guys, about some of the thunderstorms. Yeah, it was crazy, but it was also like, wow, powerful. So, yeah, that's what we had yesterday. See, Heather says, to clarify, I made it, but it's more than neighborhood hooligans breaking. Oh, okay. I'm guessing this is a previous conversation that I am not privy to. Hello, Lizzie. How are you? Good morning. Well, early morning for you, right? So good morning. Because you're down under. Yeah. Linda, good morning. How are you? Welcome everyone to the Kaffeeklatsch episode 146. How are we all doing today? I hope everyone is well. I hope you guys 1:39 a.m. Wow. Well, thank you for being here, Lizzie. This is staying up really late for you. And sometimes I see you on the CWWs. The last time I saw you on a CW, you drove by. I was like, hey. It was one of my early morning ones, like 6 o'clock in the morning. So yeah, thank you for dropping in on the CWWs when you can. I know it's not easy because you're in a completely different time zone. So I do appreciate it. Oh, so let's see. We got 13. I guess I can start with the shout outs. It's been an interesting. Dolly's been gone for a little while now. She's been out. So she's doing stuff with the girls. So it's been interesting kind of being here on my own. Good morning, Anne. Welcome. But it feels weird not having her next to me, commenting, and you're not gonna get that fantastic sage wisdom from Dolly today. So, oh, you've been asleep and now you're doing international. That's right, you're here doing international. Gerard, hello, welcome. Thank you for being here live. It's the first time I see you here. So welcome to the Kaffeeklatsch. Yeah, and you're catching it live. You're catching it as it's happening. History in the making. Okay, I'm going to go through the shout outs really quick so we can get into the. No, it's true. I'm never alone. This is true. And she's always with me. So I'm going to go through the shout outs quickly so we can get to the meat of this show today because I have a lot of fun stuff I want to talk about. So a huge shout out to everyone on YouTube. Hello, YouTube world. All of you that are on YouTube. Today's StreamYard is behaving, so we won't have to migrate to YouTube. See what I mean? Well, now that I've said that, Chris, watch StreamYard just have a fit and not be able, and Facebook explode or something. But everyone on YouTube, thank you for being here. We're on YouTube at Bit Peaches Publishing, and we have CWW there, which is the small shorts that I do, like kind of like wisdom stuff. I'm not quite old enough to be dispensing wisdom, but I've lived enough for an old person, so I have some wisdom to dispense. You notice that I didn't put the comment on the screen today because I don't want to mess with how smooth it's running right now. So we'll see. Audrey, good morning and welcome. So hello to everyone on YouTube. all of you on YouTube who visit us there, who come to the episode through YouTube. Thank you so much for being here. On Instagram, I'm at Ben Peaches. I've been putting up Instagram personal posts. I'll be putting up book posts soon. I just get my schedule kind of a little bit more flat so I can start doing stuff. If you're on YouTube, please like, subscribe, and share the channel when you get a chance. Thank you, Lizzie. I appreciate that. Because it helps us grow. And we want to get to at least 1,000 and then grow from there, right? The actual goal is like 100,000 at least, but we're going to start with 1,000, okay? And you guys are part of that 1,000, so it's amazing to have you here from the beginning. You can say, I was there when Bitten Peaches Publishing started, you know? On Instagram, I'm at Bitten Peaches, and thank you, Chris, for these links, because of course it helps. That's our technomancer in action, deft fingers. And all these links will be in the MoB if you don't see it, but they're right there now. As you can see, the links are popping right up, so StreamYard's behaving. I'm going to put a book post soon on the other Instagram, on the Bitten Peaches channel, but I've been doing it on the regular one when you see me all sweaty or looking angry when I lift my bells, you know, I'm moving the kettlebells. So I moved up in weight on the kettlebells. I was doing 24 kilograms. And now I'm doing 36 kilograms, and the 36 kilograms just laugh at me because some of the things that I do just look really, really ugly because they're heavy. So I'm like, oh my God, what the hell am I doing? But it's progressing and it's moving. And I used to move 48 kilograms, but I got hit with gout and I had to stop for a while. And now I'm moving myself back into the 48 kilograms. 48 kilograms is very specific exercises because that each bell weighs 106 pounds. And there's no way I'm doing what I do with the 36 that I'm going to do with the 48. That's crazy. So, I mean, people can do it, but now you're focusing on just being like a power lifter. And that's not what I want to do. Welcome, Jillian. Welcome. We're also on Zazzle. I'll get to the Patreon in a moment, Chris. So go to our store. We have a fantastic Zazzle store that my lead designer and senior designer have created stuff that's in there. It's EMANDES, Zazzle, and we have a fantastic store there that just has all the swag you need. I'm wearing swag. This is swag. This is not swag, but this is swag. A huge shout out. So just go to Zazzle. Go to get your swag. Here's our Zazzle store link. I'll put that up right away. There it is. And then and now we'll move to Patreon. So we have so many patrons, and I'm curious. So I want to give you kind of a heads up on what I'm doing. So for Patreon, I'm kind of creating how would I call it? A serial, I guess, a serial story that's going to be just for Patreon. I like the ideas of all these different stories that I create that I've been doing for Patreon, but I want to kind of do something that the patrons can kind of look forward to, maybe every 2 weeks or something like that, or every 3 weeks, something really consistent and something really exciting. Welcome, Connie, you're here. That's what matters. And good morning. I'm in the process of creating something really, really cool, something really, really creative, and something really, really exciting for Patreon. And I'm still in the work. We're still in the process of creating it, so I don't know what the frequency is going to be, but it's going to be regular frequency, and it's going to be exclusive. It's a Patreon exclusive serial story, but I'm really excited about the bare bones, the framework that we have now is going to be amazing. So I'm telling you this because you want to read these and you want to be part of Patreon. So I'm just letting you know. Go. This is our link. Go there, join now before this starts, because once it starts, it's not that you're not going to be able to access it, but you're going to be like behind. So you want to kind of be there at the beginning of the inception. You want to kind of get the jump on everything. It's a great story idea. It's actually set, the inception of the story is set in the M&S World. I don't want to say anything else because it's going to be a little spoiler for you. But all I can tell you is that you want to be part of the Patreon to read this story, because it's going to be, wow, it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm already having a lot of fun outlining parts of the story. So, and there are going to be things that happen in there that are going to be referenced in the M&S World, but they're not going to be detailed in the M&S World. So something you really want to you kind of have a bit of both worlds. So that's it. And remember, you can join the Patreon for free. So that's the link. Go there, join. I don't know if you'll be able to access all of the stories for free, but I'm sure we'll be able. We'll make a lot of it accessible as long as you're part of the Patreon. Let's see what else we got. Oh, let's. I think we have new authors to promo. Let's do that now, Chris. I know we have authors. Okay. First of all, it's a default. We always have authors to promo because we support our indie authors, and indie authors, thankfully, are prolific and they write constantly. But we try here. I try to really support indie authors here because when I started, there wasn't really a place to kind of showcase the books that I was writing. No one really can. It was the beginning of the Kindle revolution. Excuse me. So there wasn't really any place to get traction. We kind of had to support each other and help each other, and And thank you, Chris. This is that's why he's a techno man. So don't forget to support us on Binge Books, or Bebo, as we like to call it. Here's the link. Go there, sign up. We review. It just helps the social proof. Please go there, and it's a great site that has all the books. So and Alessandro Torre, who runs it right now, and it's a great person. He's also an author. So yeah. All right. So John Corwin, you guys know him of I believe Cthulhu fame. He has an audiobook. It's coming out. When is it coming out? Is it released? Today's, I think it's called Dead to Rights and Dead Weather Day audiobook release. Oh, sorry. So here's the link. Here's the title and the author. Here's the link. Let me pull up quick. The actual link. Dead Weather. Yeah, so it's Dead Weather Day. That's the audiobooks he has coming out. So please go there. Show him some love. Pick up his audiobook. I know a lot of us prefer to hear the story rather than read the story. And I know our audiobooks get a lot of people saying they just want more, they just want more. When is the next audiobook? Audiobooks are a pricey endeavor to create, and we're doing it ourselves. So it's a little slower, the process, but we're still really working on getting them all out to you. And the fact is that so I've written faster than we've been able to produce audiobooks. So I'm on the 28th Monty and Strong book, and I think we're only on the 18th, 17th, 18th audiobook. So we have 28 stories in the Monty M&S series, and we have 18 audiobooks. So there's a little bit of lag, but we'll get to them eventually for sure. Released yesterday. Thank you, Chris. So please get them. Get his audiobook. I think it's well worth it. And John Corwin is a great writer, and we support our indie authors. I still don't have my shirt. I know Dolly might be watching, but she's like, yeah. But it's in the process. Yeah, I write faster than the narration can definitely be done. And I don't. This is another reason why I don't dictate books, because I've tried dictation. I tried dragon dictation, and my brain somehow doesn't operate that way. I know a lot of people who can narrate their books and do it really fast. I can't. I don't. I can't do. He said. Period. Quote. Open quote. It's just my brain does not. It doesn't work that way. I have to write it out. So unless I train myself to do that and learn to dictate stuff, or speak it out and then have it kind of formatted afterwards, which is, I guess, another option, I'll be writing the books. So that's the case of everything. All right. Do we have any other promos? Is that it, Chris? I think that's it, right? Oh, that's good. That's good coffee. That's Death Wish, wake you up, punch you in the face coffee. Okay. So what have I been doing? Oh wait, there's more. Wait, there's more. Last one, BookBub. There's a BookBub. Some guy. Who's this guy? BookBub guy. Oh, my profile on BookBub. I haven't really pushed BookBub, although I should. I'm sure there are a lot of places that I'm at, because Dolly does a lot of marketing stuff in the background. So I will in a second, Jerome, for sure. But I do have a BookBub profile, and please go follow us there, because I think we only have like 400 people there, but we can increase it. So go there, This is the link. Go to BookBub, find my profile, and just follow me there. That's all you have to do. Just to increase the numbers there as well. Yeah. Okay. Got the questions, Gerard. So our first two books, which were Tumors and Butterflies and Full Moon Howl, were under contract with Tantor on then they put it up. They were under contract, so we had to wait 7 years before we could get them out of that contract, or buy it out early. And at the point when we were ready to start audiobooks, like really get into it, it was already near the 7 years. We only had to wait a few months. So what we did was we got them out of the contract, and we own the rights to the books. We own the rights to all our books. We removed all our books from Audible because the Audible has kind of a predatory, not fair deal with the authors who provide their content. So we researched the situation for authors who provide the content at Audible, and we stepped out of the exclusivity because they want, if you're exclusive with Audible, you can't put your books up anywhere else. We put all our audiobooks up on our website. We're still on Audible, but not exclusive to Audible. And that's why you saw the first two books, and we had to wait for the first two books, which was Tomb Yards and Butterflies of Full Moon Howl, to get out of the contract with Tantor before we could get the rights back, and then put them on our website, and then put them back on Audible. So to answer your question, Sharon, that was a long-winded way of saying we wanted to get the rights back. We wanted to own our books, own our content, and so we took them off Audible, and then reissued them as our own books with our rights under Bitten Peaches and not under Tantor. So yeah, there's a lot of things in motion with the audiobooks right now, a lot. And so we wanted to make sure that we had control over everything in the audiobook world with our things. So that's why we put them on the website. All the books are on the website, all the audiobooks on the website. And we had issues because you put up all the books, but then the first two weren't there. And so we had a problem onboarding people to the audiobooks because we were missing the first two, which is kind of key to a series, it's the biggest series. It's the series that's the most read, and so we wanted to kind of make sure we had that, and then upload everything to the website. And Dolly has handled the website. She makes it look amazing and beautiful. She created that website with a website designer, and she kind of the way it looks. If it looks amazing to you, it's because Dolly did that. If it looks horrible to you, it must have been something I did. Yeah, so Chris, we saw that. So Dolly looked into it long ago, like years ago, the whole audiobook thing. And she kind of saw where the winds were blowing. And she said, we need to get our audiobooks back. The first two. Those first two are the most important. We need them back. So she started working on that a few years ago and started really putting the foundations in place so that we could be where we are now with the audiobooks. So that's why. But yeah, a lot of indie authors, what's happening with the audiobooks and the royalties and the royalty share and all that's a lot of indie authors are getting burned, and they're really pissed off about it right now. And it's getting worse. So that's why we made the choice. It was going to cost us in the short run, but it was going to benefit us in the long run. So it's worth it. It's sort of like George Lucas, when he first did Star Wars, he said, instead of paying me X amount, I'll take a percentage of the toy sales. And people were like, yes, that's crazy. No one's going to, this is not going to happen. And he took a percentage of the movie too. And then at some point he retained ownership of the movie. And that's why you have Lucasfilm today. Let me hide this. All these links are going to be in the MoB family page. So you can go there and check it out. Let me get this off. Yeah, all right, it's off. So that's why. I don't know. We have to look into it, Anthony, because, and I don't really handle audiobooks anymore. I don't really go into the audiobook department of Ben Peaches. That's Dolly handles that. So everything audiobook, Dolly is she's a Valkyrie about it. So she is, don't mess with, I don't mess with her. She has complete leeway over it. I just say, there you go. And I step back. I let her do whatever she's gonna do. She puts it where she wants to put it. She makes sure that it's represented right. She's the one that's found like all these different places like Spotify, Find the Way, Kobo, all these other places that kind of promote audiobooks. If they don't do it properly, she kind of removes the book or she speaks to people. She's spoken to people involved in the audiobooks and so what's going on. And she's seen what happened with some of the more predatory practices and how audiobooks are being they get charged a lot, but the author and the narrator don't get much of the proceeds from that. So it's really being exploited or exploitative. And so she's the one that handles the audiobook. I just write. I'm just a talent. I just write. She's handling all that part. So that's basically it in terms of audiobooks. I can't answer too much because she has all the nuts and bolts in her head, and she's the one who knows where everything kind of is. It's the same thing with the wide books. We've taken a few books wide, and I started off wide with the Spiritual Warrior, so I know a lot about going wide with books and things like that. But she has taken over. She said you gotta put some of the books wide because we need to expand the audience. I said, okay, take some books wide, go for it. And so she's taken a lot of books wide. She's done her research, she did her due diligence. She's been checking out where is best to put the books wide. And so it's like Drafted Digital, Kobo, all these other places where the books are wide. And so some of the books are wide, some of them are doing really well. She checks on it. She is like, nothing escapes her when it comes to that stuff. So she's on top of it. I step back, and what I do is I write more books. So that's how this works, you know? Yeah, there's a lot in the audiobook situation that can't be shared for various reasons. One, because a lot of them are under contract. A lot of them it's like kind of NDA stuff. There's just a lot of stuff that can't be shared, but the authors that are involved, the content creators that are involved are not happy, and so it's coming to a head. We'll see what happens. You know, it's just sort of like what happened with Amazon recently, where the print books, all the print books, I've always had my print books at $9.99 because I figured that was the lowest you can get it and still kind of make a return on it and, you know, and be at the right kind of like the distribution and stuff. But now they recently implemented a change where they raised their printing prices. So anyone who had their print books lower than $9.99 had to either raise their books, or I think they were gonna be getting some like nothing, basically nothing for it. I'm not completely sure, but I know it impacts those books that are lower than $9.99 tremendously. I'd have to do more due diligence on it. I have to read a little bit more on the background. But yeah, so you know, those changes are coming. You've got to roll with them. It's like AI. You have to roll with, is AI a tool? Is it going to usurp writers and authors? I don't think it's going to usurp writers because AI is not sentient. It's a tool, but you have to know how to use the tool. That's all it is, right? YouTube content creators are also getting angry about shares. Yeah, YouTube is changing too. So um, you've gotta really start thinking about diversifying and first of all and creating your own content and being in charge of your own content and owning your content and having a place to put your own content. At some point, you, everyone who's like into this content creator or things like that has to do something like that. You know? Yeah. Yeah, exactly. You can put when we send out books signed by the author. I don't. I think we don't even. I'm not sure because again, Dolly Ham said for. I don't even think we charge certain readers for books signed by the author. I'm not sure. I think we have like a discounted price if you get it directly from us. So, but we have books signed by us, and it should you should be able to offer everything Amazon offers or anything Kobo or anyone else offers for the same price, and should have a place to do that. That's really the key that as a author you can't just think of I'm talent and therefore I cannot sully my hands with business. No, if you're an independent author, yeah, I don't think there's extra charge. I don't think so. If you're an independent author, you have to be able to put on the business hat and the creative hat interchangeably, both. Those days of I just write and I don't do anything else, those days are gone. The days that you can just say I'm just an author, I don't do any of that business stuff. You're not gonna last long in this current world because it's just not the way things are done. You have to have a website. This is okay. This is turning into the author business show. You have to have a website. It's not even optional anymore. You have to have a website. You have to have a place where you can reach out to readers. You have to have a newsletter, a newsletter that you own, not one that's controlled by anyone else, one that you own. You don't want to rent when you can own. In this case, you should own, right? And it is. It's like Chris is saying, selling is much harder than writing. Yes, getting out there. Okay, because as authors, as writers, we are naturally introverted people. That's just the way we live in our heads. That's what we do. And now you're being asked to step out of that comfortable environment and go out and tell people about your book, or explain that you're an author and that you created this story, you created this world, and I really think you're gonna love it. And you got to find your tribe of people. The mob, as it exists, has been around. I want to say 11 years now, maybe more. It's not instant. It takes time to build your readership, and you just have to be out there with. You got to put yourself out there. It wasn't easy for me to put myself out there in the beginning. I mean, I've never really been extroverted. I've been mostly introverted. But you've got to you got to get a website. You've got to create I've been Peaches as an incorporated business, right? Editors, I had Laura Lee Logsden for the longest time as my editor, and then her daughter Audrey, and then, they both stopped, but I have other editors now. Covers, DDD is my go-to, but I also have Gene Malika, who has done the covers on Night Warden. The marketing I've handled. I learned. I took Mark Dawson's FB for Ads course. I studied other courses. I really dove deep into the marketing because I wanted to control that. And I've also learned a lot, and Dolly has learned a lot along the way. There's a lot as an author that you have to be not only willing to do, but you have to do, not just willing, you have to do it. Yeah, it's a lot. Let's start a list for definitely, because Chris, that's something that if we can create kind of like I don't want to say a manifesto, that just has such negative connotations. A bullet point list, or this is what you need. You need to for beginning authors. We can sit down and kind of brainstorm. This is what you need. What you need to start out as an author in 2020, in the 2025s, or in this decade, because it's so much different from when I started. There's so much more to learn. So Michiko is at least 10. 10 what? And Enid. Jillian says, boil it down. What would you want to have an author website that caters to all authors to get all things together? There's a lot, Jillian. If you look at my website, if you go to my website, go to orlandoasanchez.com. That was built from scratch. And, it's just, wow, it's a lot. So we'll have to simplify it and kind of like, okay, this is the bare minimum you need as an author starting out to kind of get started in this industry, because it's not just you sitting there writing. It's you have to create. Okay, let me give a caveat. If you want to be published and you want people to read your work, which is, I think every author feels like this is an end goal, right? You have to you have to look at the business side of this. What does it take to get your stories out into the world successfully? Ina says, years old, my cat. Oh, that's so awesome. Wow, Ina, 10 years. Yeah, your Michiko is at least 10 years old, because Michiko's been around since the beginning, since Two Nerds and Butterflies and Not Full Moon How. I know she's been there since the beginning. So yeah, your cat is as old as the series. So yes, that's amazing. I'm waiting to hear who names their dog Peaches. I think there's a Peaches out there. I'm pretty sure there's a Peaches out there somewhere. So that's basically to start to kind of riff off what Gerard was asking about the audiobooks. It's not just the audiobooks, because the audiobooks is a whole different branch of that being that author business venture mindset, right? The audiobooks is a whole other thing. And then you've got mixed media. So if any of you know who Jonathan Yanez is, he got into making films, which is a whole different ball game, a whole different situation. And you can use your writing as the content for films if you know how to, one, either write a screenplay, or two, know a screenwriter who you can collaborate with to write a screenplay. And now you're moving into a completely different world of storytelling, because it's all storytelling, but it's just different media, right? Or different mediums. So yeah. You meant like what Samuel was pointing out, have a website where all the authors can act. Well, I'm not creating a website. No. Because that's just so much work, and I have enough to do. What I could do is we could put a page, a white page, I guess, on the mob, with a bullet point of everything, and to help new authors out. We're also accessible as resources. Like Chris is here. You have a few authors in the mob itself, Jillian, that you can access. We have our fan fiction page. I guess we could kind of use that also as part of like, hey, you're an author, you're getting started, you're writing. Maybe you want to consider having this in place before you really, if you really want to take this seriously. If you're ready to take the next step to really get published, this is what you need to do. Because the stigma of self-publishing that existed when I started, like I'm talking, it was vanity press, you had to pay for everything. But there was a real stigma, and I think a lot of it still exists, but not as much. But there's a stigma about you're self-published, ew, like you smell, But that stigma is gone now because so many well-known authors have decided to like, no, I don't need a big publishing house. I'm going to do this myself, right? Kindle changed that. Amazon changed that. I mean, they're the 800-pound gorilla, good and bad. So there's definitely less of a stigma. There are people who still say the only true authors are the ones who have traditionally published, except that they make pennies on their books. I'd rather not. Julian's like, not you. Yeah. When you said a website, I was like, oh no, I can't. I don't have time. I don't have the bandwidth to create a website. But we can create a white page on the mob room and the mob case files, and we can do something that would help all authors. You guys are true fans for sure. I really, 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 really appreciate it. Yeah, because someone has to make sure the links are legit. It's a lot of that's a lot of work. We can put bullet points of this is what you need, sort of like what Sammy did, which is like you need a website, you need an LLC, you need an editor, you need a cover artist, a cover designer, and you need all this stuff. And so, and then if you want to pursue it further, then we could say, okay, this is a cover designer I suggest, things like that. The one that I use, which everyone knows by now, is Deranged Doctor Design, which is top of the line, and Jean Malika, which is a boutique studio, which I wouldn't recommend for a beginning author, only because they are boutique studio and they charge boutique prices. So not because they're not good, they are exceptional. I've always said, if you ever look at the Night Warden covers, I can take those covers, the original covers, and I can blow them up to whatever size I want. I can make a billboard out of them. They would lose no resolution. They look that good. Okay. But to get that kind of quality in an image, because I worked in graphic design for a long time, and I can tell you how hard that is to keep that fidelity. When you create an image and you blow it up, it loses a lot because it gets pixelated and it starts changing. The fact that Jean Malika's covers do not do that is that they're using incredible software and they're using a process that's expensive, and they charge accordingly. So that's just so you know, okay? Yeah, they're cheaper. Look, cheaper, good cover. DDD is affordable. DDD is an amazing cover artist company that they are affordable, and I recommend all my books, all of them, with the exception of Night Warden. The Night Warden books are done by Deranged Doctor Design. That's what I did, Chris. That's what I did initially. Like, okay, if you see a cover that you like, right? Let's say you see my covers, you say, "Wow, I want to." This is what I did in the beginning before, and Shane is the one who put me onto DDD, and then I put Shane onto Jean Malika. So, but if you see a cover that you like by an author that you like, or even an author that you don't like, but you just see the cover and you're like, "Whoa, that cover is amazing." Ask the author, "Hey, who did your cover?" That's it. Some authors will tell you, some may not, because some authors are operating under the misconception that we're all competing, which is incredibly wrong and a myth. Because, like I've always said, There's no author on this planet that can write enough to satisfy all the readers that exist. It just can't happen. But some authors are very forthcoming. Like I will tell you, the range authors, I in fact pumped them up because they should get as many authors as possible. But some authors will be a little cagey about it. Then don't worry about it. Just ask another author. That's all. You know? Yeah. Yeah, the graphics. So okay, so it's just not this is not the author. They also have the software. Like I'm a graphic designer, so I know what they're using, and I know the cutting edge where they are. To do what DDD does, it's still not easy. Please, 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 if you have to take anything from this show, don't do your own covers. I'm a graphic designer by study and by trade. I went to school for it, and I did it as a career. I made my first few covers for the Spiritual Warrior because I thought, yes, this is what works. I still have some of those books. They're collector's editions now. Don't make your own covers unless you work as a cover designer. You won't know what works. You're gonna think this is what works and it's awesome and it's great because I like it. No, no. I tried that and it was horrible. I put up this obscure Japanese character. I put the text up. Everything looked amazing, and it didn't work. It didn't work as a book, you know. So what do you have to call her, Enid Michigo? What do you have to call her? So please take this advice. Don't do your own covers. Don't do your own art. I immediately, once I made that cover and I realized this isn't going to work, I started looking for cover designers, and I went through a few before I found the Range Doctor Design. The only cover artist I would recommend, and I'd have to find him, is the one who did Sisters and A Dream of Ashes. A Dream of Ashes, that cover designer, my God, that was art. So he didn't just do covers, he did art. And he wasn't overly, I think he was charging like $500, which back then was pricey, but he did Sepia Blue Sisters, which looks amazing, and A Dream of Ashes, which I still have that cover somewhere, like just the cover somewhere, which is amazing. He made that look. I gave him an idea, and he was like, "Okay, I got this. I understand what you want. Okay, I'll do this." He came back with blew me away, which is what the Range Doctor Design does every cover. So if you look at any M&S cover, you'll be like, "Wow!" Because each time they are incredible. They're incredible. And the last project that they worked on, which I can't share because it's secret, left me awestruck. Like, I can't believe that's exactly what I want them, that I want. That's exactly what I visualized. That's exactly what I wanted them to do. They did that. So right at this point, they're in my head. It's insane how amazing they are. Okay, so let me get to what I'm doing and what's in the process and kind of give you the update. So currently, Pain Eaters, the third book in the Division 13 series. It's the trilogy right now. I'm going to do it as a trilogy for now. Pain Eaters is done. It's an edit. It should be out soon. Let's see. As the float, okay, we're going to discuss As the Lotus Floats in a moment, you know? But As the Lotus Floats, wow. The response to it completely blindsided me. I really didn't think, like when I was describing this to, like, let's say I was speaking to Chris or Joe or Dolly, and I was, this is a passion project. You know, I'm just putting this out there because I got these poems, this haiku in my head. They won't leave me alone. I got to get them out because if I don't do it now, I'm never going to do it. So let me just get them done, put them in a book and get it out. I don't think I'm ever going to do another one. I don't know about that now, but at this point, it's book one, right? And I got it out, and the response, you guys are amazing. It's still number one in Japanese and haiku. It's incredible. I'm okay. I'm always awestruck by the fact that my books are number one on Amazon or any of the categories. I'm always amazed because that means that the readers really love it, right? And pick it up and get it and spread the word and tell people, and other people get it, and it's amazing. The fact that this book hit number one, I completely did not. I thought it was going to get lost in obscurity. It's like, it's a poetry book. I have a few printed out because I did get the cool cover. I got other covers. So the print covers art, also done by the Range Doctor Design, but the cover is art. It gives you this sense of tranquility and peace, and wow. I had again. I gave the range the idea. I said, okay, it's a haiku book. It's it conveys different seasons and different parts, different phases of life, and you know things that I went through. It took me 10 years to kind of get all these haiku together because they kind of happened as life was happening. And wow, so and I said okay, and I want the concept of lotus and butterflies because the lotus has a lot of deep significance in different beliefs in Buddhism and Japanese culture. So the lotus is very important. It's like spirituality and tranquility and enlightenment. So and the butterfly also has a lot of deep significance, also in Japanese culture. And since it's the book of haiku, I figured this would all kind of tie together. So I said, okay. And the title just came to me one day. So I said, lotuses float on, the lotus flower floats on top of the lake. And if you ever study, okay, this is all the background stuff that authors do, how the stem comes up and it comes out of the mud. And so you see this beautiful flower and it's sitting on the lake, but beneath the flower, there's all the earth. And it's kind of like our lives, we show our best parts, but our lives can be messy behind the scenes. But we always try to show the most beautiful part, right? So I put all this together in a brief for DDD, and they said, "Okay, we got this." And what they came back with, I was like, "What?" So that's the benefit of having a really, really, really good cover designer. Thank you, Mary Beth. I do appreciate it. I do. Yeah. So as Chris is saying, you guys are gonna be thrilled if you see that cover. It's crazy. Yeah. Yeah. When I saw it, Chris, that's exactly what I thought. This is like a Japanese watercolor. And what the book that it brought to mind, and I shared this with Chris, is like there's a book called Japanese Death Poem, and it's written by they call it jige, if I'm not mistaken. And what they are is these are poems that are written, usually haiku, that are written in the last moment of life. Just as a person's about to die, they write a poem. How they have the presence of mind to compose a haiku just as they're about to die, that's a whole different level of enlightenment, right? But these jige have been they've been composed or taken together and then made into a book. And the cover for that book, Japanese Death Poems, looks just reminiscent of As the Lotus Floats. So I don't know if they saw that cover and said we need to be in this kind of vein of cover. We need to make it look like this. I was blown away. Like Chris is saying, I was blown away by the cover because I saw that cover and I was like, wow. Okay, even if I don't even know what's in this book, I'm getting this book because just from the cover itself. And that's why I tell you, the thing that an author has to, so now we're going to put on our business hat again, right? You write this awesome book. It takes you however long. It takes you a year, a month, some of us 3 months, 2 months, whatever, 10 years, whatever time it takes you. You write this book. You're an author. You're an aspiring writer, aspiring author. I hate that word aspiring. But you're an aspiring author. You write this book. You put your sweat, your tears, blood, everything is into this story. You get it together. It gets all together. You put it together, and then you don't put the best cover that you can put on it. That's a problem because, unfortunately, this is the way it works. Books are judged by their covers. You know how don't judge a book by its cover? Yeah, books are judged by their covers. I don't care what what you're saying and where. You look at a cover, if it doesn't capture your eye, it doesn't catch some part of your attention, most likely it's not going to get read, unfortunately. Especially in this environment we are now, where everything is very visual and there's thumbnails of books everywhere. You have to have a cover that's going to stand out. So you can write the most amazing book, the most amazing story, and it may not get discovered because you have to have the cover. So I've always told authors this, people who want to, this is the business side, right? The first thing you have to invest in is a cover. Kind of tied with that is editing. You need really good editing. So editing and cover, non-negotiable. You have to invest in those. You don't have the means to do so, save up until you do, or get a loan or something. I'm not saying go into debt. I'm just saying get a good cover, find a good cover designer, the manufacturer design. Get a good editor. That you just have to ask authors for, even though they kind of advertise, but you have to have an author who can recommend one to you, or You got to find an editor that kind of does what you write. Those two things are really not negotiable. You need a cover, you need a good editor. Then your it goes to your blurb. If you have to write if you can write a book, you can write a blurb. They're not the same. They're not. But you've got to learn how to do it. You've got to be able to write a good description, a good blurb, a good synopsis, whatever you want to call it. Even though those things may be slightly different, it's not semantics. But you got to write a good description, a good blurb. What's going to hook your reader, the potential reader, to read your story? You've got to be able to do that. If you can't do that, you're in trouble because that's part. It's like they see the cover. So here's how the process works. A potential reader will see your cover and go, whoa, that looks interesting. Right from there, they go to the description. If the description is not good, subpar, you're done. That's where it stops. I don't want to read that. The person can't even write the description. They can't even describe the book. Why should I read the book? I don't care if the cover looks great if the description is horrible because I'm trying to read a story. It's not a graphic novel. I just don't want the art. I want to be able to read the story, right? After the description, it's the writing. You've got to make your first. I know I'm being harsh, but your first sentence, as they say, has to sting, or it has to go like this and grab that reader. Then your first paragraph, and then your first page, and then your first chapter. If you don't have your reader invested in your story by the first chapter, you have lost them. And some readers aren't even that gracious. First sentence, first paragraph, maybe first page. And then if they're not caught up by then, bye, I'm done. So you gotta have a description that's like, wow, and then you've got to have the writing that matches that description. Exactly, Chris. If you're putting your book baby out into the world, it has to be the best that you can do. I'm not saying try to copy some best-selling author from Random House or whatever. The best that you can do, the best that you can put out there, and try to aim. Here's the standard. Try to make your book indistinguishable from a traditionally published book. Go for that. Try to make your books so good, and some traditionally published books have errors and mistakes, but try to make it so when someone picks up your book, whether it is a paperback book or an ebook, that it's indistinguishable from that. No one can look at it and go, oh, this is definitely someone who just did this as a hobby. Make it look professional. Just go for professionalism. Try to make your book as professional as possible. That took a long time to learn, and that's something that you just have to kind of study, look it up. You have a whole at this point you have a whole genre to look at to use as research. Okay, what am I doing currently? Well, if you have any other author related business questions, please don't hesitate to ask. I'm reading Requiem, which is book 13. Requiem is book 13, which is back in 2021. Wow, that's a long time ago. 4 years ago at this point. Because Deadeye, so the books have a thread, right? But Requiem is going to directly reference, Deadeye is going to directly reference Requiem. And so that's what I'm reading Requiem right now as homework for Deadeye. And I can't wait to jump into Deadeye. I'm ready, but yeah. You see, Sammy says, average covers run between 250 to 500. Yeah, if you want to go one. LLC is 150 in most days, which is really affordable, really, guys. Editors range from hundreds to thousands. Yeah, depending on the edit. If you're getting proofreading, copy editing, line editing, all those change the price of the editor. And how they charge by word also changes. So, but if you want the best for your story, and you should, as an author, you should want the best, then that's why you should save up for that. Like you guys, those of you that are in the art, which do an amazing job. I still have an editor look at the books after you shred it, because that's, it's something you want to do. Because no matter how many, and even with that, with the art and the shredding and Dolly also editing, there are still things that get, when I look at the book and after it's done and all those eyes have seen it, there's still things that get through. I think that materialize as the book gets published, Paige says, this is why I try to edit as thoroughly as I can, even though I don't get paid. Currently working on a manuscript as I listen. I feel I'm bound to help the author put out the best baby they can. Yes, and you guys, Paige is part of the art. You guys are, you guys don't realize that sometimes when you're doing your edits in the art, and I'm looking, I'm like, oh, you kidding me? And I look and I see like 800 notes or 700 notes. I'm like, oh. But it's a good problem to have. You know why? Because every note, behind every note, there's a reader there that's saying, I want to help you make the best possible book you can create. And so as an author, you have to shift your mindset and say, you know what? This is really good. I'm glad I had this many notes. Well, in the beginning, I used to have like thousands of notes. So I have gotten a little better over time. I won't say a lot better, a little better. I have much less these days. But every note is a declaration of help and hope that you have the best book that you can put out in the world. So you, as an author, you shift your mindset and you say, okay, there's a lot of them, but I got to get through these. I got to get through them all. Like and I read every single. I've never skipped notes because I know, like what Chris is saying, every art reader catches something different from someone else. I've gotten notes for the same passage, but different parts of the same passage. It's incredible. So what one person catches, someone else might miss, and what one other person misses, someone else's catches. That's just the way it is. Okay. Oh, formatting, Sammy, is a whole other. That's another thing. I used to use. Okay, so because I'm a graphic designer, I wanted to get all fancy schmancy with my writing. I used to use drop cases at the beginning of every chapter. Like drop cases is like the big letter, and then like let's say I walked through the store, and the I was like 3 lines large, and then you have the rest of the text normal size. I would do that. I would have decorative scroll work in between chapter breaks. I was like going, gung ho, like, yeah, I could do this because, I'm a graphic designer. That formatting is a whole different skill. It takes a lot of work, and I don't do that anymore. I'm like, no, let's just make it look clean, make it look really sharp, get that book out there because it takes a lot of work, and that's another kind of software. I know Vellum does have formatting, which I use Vellum, but even so, it's still work. It's still like tough stuff. So again, part of the business. It was fun at first. Oh my god, when it was like 1 book, 2 books, it was fun. I had the software for it. I could do it. After a while, I was like, nah, I can't. This is a chore. This is hard. Because the formatting is not just taking the story. You've got to worry about blank space. You've got to worry about how the paragraphs look. You've got to worry about. So here's another thing as an author, and I think Stephen King has spoken about this a few times. It's not just writing the story, right? Because that's key. Obviously, you're an author. You're writing, right? Morning, Raven's Lair. You're not just writing, but it's how your story looks. And let me explain what this means. I've seen books with blocks of text with no breaks. And you know what that does to my brain? It tells me, stop, can't read this right now. Take a break because it's just too much text all at once. Because we still are visual, even when we're reading a story. And that what happened to me over time gradually, you'll notice a lot of my paragraphs are one sentence. And what that does, it affects the pacing of the story, or it makes something come out and punch it, and it changes how the story is read. And so sometimes one sentence, it's a gut punch. You're like, oh, what? Did he just? And so what it does, but even aside from that, what it changes the content of the story in a way, how it appears in the story itself makes it pleasing to the eye. And this is why a lot of people say, I can read your book so fast. I say, I know, that's by design. I write them so that you can read them fast. When you write a big, thick paragraph like that, it just slows. You put the brakes on your story because now everybody has to stop and read this entire thing because it might be important, or they skim it and it might have things in it that are important. Welcome, Aaron, on your YouTube. Awesome. What is Julianne saying? Every paragraph? Yeah, I love it when it's the opening character in the first paragraph. And yes, I love the scroll work, but yeah, it is lots of work. Yeah, every chapter, Jillian, I was saying every chapter, not every paragraph. That's crazy. That's insane. But every chapter, the beginning of every chapter, it was like the opening character would be beautiful or big and ornate. And at some point, I was like, yeah, I'm done. I'm done with this. It looks beautiful, but nope, not doing this anymore. And you can see some of my earlier books have that. The way the book looks, the story looks, the way the writing looks is just as important as what the writing contains. So you have to consider that also as an author. How you're writing and how you're writing. So how you're writing meaning how you're writing your story, and how you're writing meaning how you're setting up, because this goes to the formatting that Simon was talking about. How you're setting up paragraph breaks, how you're setting up paragraph to paragraph. All that stuff matters. All of it matters in the pacing and the way you're telling your story. And you do this when you do it orally. When you tell a story, you don't say, and then I went to the store, and then I bought the shirt, and then I walked up the store, and then I went to the street, and then on the street, so no, there's dramatic pauses. There's, lead ups to other things. There are always breaks and paces, and some things are said really fast, some things are drawn out a little slower. So kind of the way a story is told is the way it's written, if you're doing it the right way, Julian says there are places in specific books that I always skim. I can't make myself not because of the storyline. It drives me nuts that I can't slow down on no specific. Yeah, it happens. And sometimes, here's the other thing. Sometimes you're so into the story and the author takes a slight aside to explain something. You're like, nah, I got to get back to what's happening. And that's okay, because that's normal when you're really into a story. And smart authors who kind of know their readers, know not to put things that will slow down unless it's deliberate and it has a purpose. Because there's writing that speeds up the reading and there's writing that slows down the reading. Like when I do Mage Speak with Monty, that deliberately slows down the reading, which is why I limit it. And that's always Simon reacting like, no, just tell it to me in English. Don't give me this Mage Speak. Just tell it to me in English. All right, it is time. Man, time just goes by so fast. To do some questions. Okay. First of all, thank you for your questions. You guys are amazing. Every episode we have questions, and the questions totally rock. So let's get to this. All right, Anthony asks, can we vote on secondary characters' vehicles? Jim the Butcher's. For a moment there, Anthony, I thought you were talking about Jim Butcher. It's like Jim Butcher. So that's my own Easter egg. So Jim the Butcher's Dodge Ram TRX with a Hellcat engine. As amazing as that sounds, I don't think I've done secondary characters' vehicles. Every character that has a vehicle, if you notice, is a main character. So I don't know if I've done secondary character. If the character has a vehicle, they're no longer a secondary character. They're important to the story in a different way. So I don't know if we could do secondary characters. Once they have a vehicle, they're no longer secondary characters, right? And yes, Chris, that has happened to me. Reading while you're still sleeping. Yes. Anthony also asks, that's a great question. I will consider it, but I don't see it happening. Anthony also asks, will we ever see Peaches take vengeance on the dog whisperer? You're going to have to clarify for me who is the dog whisperer. So the only person that really managed to hurt Peaches was Thomas, and Thomas was dealt with. So I don't know who the dog was. Who's the dog whisperer? Yeah, that'd be interesting to find out. Okay, Chris, but it's a good question. Just let me know who the dog whisperer is, and I'll tell you. Chris Chrisman asks, Simon is deathless. Is he also ageless? Yes, he's ageless. He has pretty much stopped. I want to say 45 around there, where he doesn't age any longer. And there's a lot. Someone really broke it down for me. Well, they kind of explained their conception or their concept of what it means for Simon as a cursed immortal. Like, why does he need to eat? Or why does he need to breathe? Why does he need to? I think, okay, he's immortal, but that doesn't mean he's any less. He doesn't need to do these things. He still does, but need may be a strong word. There are certain things that he no longer really needs to do, but still does out of the habit of being human, right? So, but it was a good conversation, because there's a lot of things that Simon doesn't really need to do that will come up in later stories. I can't, Yeah. Hello, Mary. Good coffee morning, Marie. I know your time zone is a whole different thing too. So whatever time it is. Good morning, Marie. All right, Audrey's questions. Great question, Chrisman on the Simon death list. That's a good question. Oh, let's see. Audrey asks, keeping her streak going. What food traumatized you as a kid? Yikes. Okay, the food that I still won't eat to this day is liver because one day my mom tried to pass it off as steak, and I thought it was steak, and she had done it with onions and seasoning, and it smelled great. And then when I cut it and I went to eat it, and it was decidedly not steak, and that traumatized me. That one was really bad because even to that point, I don't. To this day, I don't eat liver, and I won't. I refuse to eat liver. But that, and then there's this typical dish in the Caribbean culture, which is, I guess you call it fish and porridge. I think it's also in Jamaican culture, but it's Caribbean. So it's corn porridge and fish. And my mom made that. And you're talking about, I was born in New York. We didn't do fish and porridge growing up. So she said, I'm going to make you a typical dish that we would make. This is the kind of dish that, fishermen would eat or people who would work in the fields. Like, this is the kind of meal that keeps you satisfied, satiated all day. You don't need to eat again until nighttime. I'm thinking, wow, that's going to be good, right? It was fish and porridge. And when she put that plate in front of me, I was like, my brain did a double take. It's like, this is such a disconnect. Like, these two things don't go together because my whole youth growing up, porridge was a breakfast meal that you ate in the winter when it was cold and it was hot, and you ate it. And fish was something you ate completely separate from porridge. And she put both of them together. I was like, no, this doesn't work. I can't eat this. This doesn't work. No. And it was all the kids. We all had a mutiny. We all rebelled. And I was like, kids are just so entitled and spoiled. This is what you eat when you don't have anything to eat. This is food from the land. I was like, not from this land. We can go to the supermarket. So yeah, it was memorable, and we didn't eat. She made a point of not. I have to ask my sister, but I remember that she didn't make anything else, so we didn't eat it, and we had to go hungry that night, just to kind of like show us. So, but I asked my sister because I might be misremembering, but I remember that fish and porridge. Listen, if you want to punish a child that's not used to that kind of food, that's the food you give them. So yeah, I was like, ooh, no. That and liver, those are my two foods that traumatize me. To this day, I will not, fish and porridge does not go in the same plate. And liver doesn't go in any plate, period. Dolly is not here, and I won't answer for her, but I can tell you, this is Dolly's question, Audrey. When growing up, what was your idea of a great weekend? I'm sure anything that she had to do with her family or going to the beach. Dolly loves the beach, Let's see. And anytime she spends weekends with me, great weekend. Those are great. Anything that she does a lot of stuff with the kids, like takes them to museums, takes them out, takes them to parks. She loves that kind of stuff. So those are great weekends for her. And I think a weekend away, mind you, this is just me answering for Dolly, not as Dolly. A weekend away from the city, out in the nature, out in, somewhere tropical would be a great weekend for her. Let's see. Anthony says, I have been fighting my way through the infuriating The Wandering Inn series, pure tragedy born with aggravating smug idiot non-savant. I have not even heard about this, Anthony. But yeah, I think that would be her answer, Audrey. She loves being outdoors. She loves the beach. She really does. And that's her thing. And she comes from a tropical place, so yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Okay, Orlando, next question, Audrey. When reading fiction, what aspect of the story, plot, characters, editing, almost guarantees that you will not finish it? I try to be really gracious when I'm reading stories, and so I try to. If I start a story, I'm kind of like Anthony. I try to find my way to the end. But I've grown a lot since I started, and I realized that there's a limited number of books that I'm going to read in my life. There's a limited amount of time that I have, so I will not, certain books now, I will be like, no, it's not. So I'll tell you kind of the criteria. I'll tell you what keeps me reading as opposed to what stops me from reading. And then from there, you can get the answer. I have to be invested in the main character. The writing has to be tight in terms of it's got to be smart writing. I'm not saying it has to be elite, erudite, really elevated writing. It's got to be smart writing. I'm really bad with it now because I write, so I know how the sausage is made, and so I'm a little bit harsher on authors because I say you could have written this 5 different ways and you chose this one and it doesn't work. So if the writing is not well thought out, that stops me. Plot, I suspend my disbelief a lot when I read because it's a story. I want to get into the story, but if the story doesn't engage me, or if I can't get into the story, I stop because I say it's not written for me. This is not a book for me, and I let it go. There's been a lot of sci-fi like that, some fantasy that I can't get into. That I'm like, this is not written for me as a reader. Let's let it go. Editing is a little harder because editing is not the author per se so much as the editor that they've had work on it. Even though the author should go back and read the story after it's been edited, just to make sure that the editing is on point. Like I've said, even after several passes, some editing errors, unless the editing error is really, really bad, if it's typos, things like that, I kind of let them go because I know I've been there. I know what it's like. You publish the book and all of a sudden it's like, what? Oh, how did that get through everyone? So, but yeah, if it has those kind of things where it's sloppy writing, bad character development, a plot that is just can't really get the story together. If you know what I mean, like some plots kind of meander, and by the end of the book, you're like, so where did it? What was the point of this? If you have it like that, it's like, yeah, then I can't read them. I DNF. I really do DNF. You know, that's just me. That's my personal opinion. But yeah, you know, that Anthony, it really is the saddest but most real statement of a grown up. Yeah, it's true. You only have a limited amount of books that you will read. No, I currently right now have more books than I will read in my life, and that's okay. That's in Japanese culture. That's considered a sign of enlightenment and intelligence, and it's actually appreciated to have a very very large library. I think it's in many cultures, not just Japanese culture, where it's appreciated to have a library larger than you will ever finish. I think it's a sign of culture in many places. Um, you're welcome, Audrey. I did answer for her, but yeah, I can't answer as her. All right, so Chris Gibson asked, where was Simon born? That should be an easy one. The same place I was born. He was born in the Bronx. So one day he's gonna have to go back there and kind of revisit his old stomping ground. That could be like a red shirt question. Speaking of red shirts, I'll get to that right now. I believe it's a tropical thing being born down there. Yeah, it's a tropical thing. I think it's a tropical thing is awesome. You're welcome, Audrey. Red shirts. We have a red shirt competition for the next M&S book, which is Dead Eye. I don't want to divulge what the criteria is because everybody gets the same information at the same time, right? But there's another one, so prepare yourself. Jeanette was not the previous red shirt. I believe that's Kathy Garner was the previous red shirt, according to information. But Kathy has been MIA for years. I don't know if she's even in the mob still. So I went to the previous red shirt, which was Jeanette, who's still very active in the mob, and I gave her the task of coming up with the criteria for the next red shirt, the next question to be asked and answered, or the next conditions. So she's working on that, but we have a red shirt competition coming up, and it's going to be fun to find out who's the next one that's going to die. Deadeye, can I even say this? Deadeye deals with death. It's not going to be G.R.R. Martin type stuff, but there are going to be deaths in Deadeye. Yeah. Anthony said, have you ever had a table flipping moment due to an unexpected twist? Yeah, I've had a few. I'm not going to divulge them, but I've had a few. I was like, what? I'll give you an example of Jim Butcher, Dresden, when he killed a certain warden. I was like, what? And then again, later on, when he killed someone else, I threw the book. I really like, you can't, no, don't, you can't do, no, don't. And he did, and I was upset. upset. In a movie, usually, see that with movies is a little harder because in movies, because they're visual, and the director, by the very nature of the medium, gives things away early. I kind of see it all coming. But there have been a few times where I've been surprised in movies, but most of the time in movies I can already tell, I can already see it. Yeah, Morgan, man, I put the book down, Aaron. I put it down after that. I was like, can't believe it. Can't believe it. And then later on, which I won't spoil the second one, I was I stopped again. I was like, I waited years for this. I was upset. I was literally upset. And so when my readers tell me you can't do this, I completely and entirely relate. And when other people say, why did I get so upset? It's just a book, it's a story, it's not real. They do know it's made up. It's not made up. It's real to me. That's a real answer. It's real to me is a real answer. And the anger and the upsetness is justified. So you cannot diminish, and this is a really important thing as a reader and as an author, you cannot diminish the feelings of your readers when you write a story and they react a certain way. Because yes, it's your story. As an author, it's your story. But the moment you put it out into the world, it's no longer your story. Yes, you're the author, your name's on the cover, but it's not just your story anymore because everyone takes that story and adds a little bit of themselves to the story as they're reading it. It's not just your story. It's your story, you wrote it, yes. But it's also their story too, which means it's also their characters. They love the characters. They love the story. They hate that guy. They love that guy. So you can't just diminish that. You can't diminish the feeling of reader. When a reader comes and tells me, I hate you. You kept me up all night. Of course, there's the, I'm so sorry. Not really, but I am. Because that's what an author loves hearing that. You kept me up all night with your story. And I had to go to work the next day, but I had to finish the last chapter. I understand. I'm really, really sorry that I make you miss sleep. Every author loves hearing that. But behind that statement, as an author, you have to understand that every reader invests themselves and their time and a part of themselves into your characters, into your story. You cannot diminish how they feel, their feelings, when they express emotion or outrage or whatever the case may be. When you do something like that. Yeah, character. Okay, I'll give you an example. That's if that every one of you knows. If I say any comic book character, Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, any of these characters that are around, they're 80 years old. These characters, they should all be senior citizens at this point, right? And Batman has been done like a senior citizen in many, many stories. But why do they live so long in the minds? You've got generations. Me as a kid, I knew about Batman. My parents knew about Batman. My kids know about Batman. Why does this happen with characters? Or Sherlock Holmes, or Zorro, or just name any character that's been around forever. Why? Because, it's what Jeanette's saying. Well-written characters live in our minds and hearts, way past what everybody, I'm sure Sherlock Holmes, when he wrote, Arthur Conan Doyle, when he wrote Sherlock Holmes, he wasn't thinking, well, 100-something years from now, they'll still be reading my stories. He killed Sherlock. He got so tired of writing Sherlock that he killed him. And the uproar was so great that he had to bring him back in some contrived manner. Because, could you imagine this? You kill a character, people get so pissed off that you say, oh, no, he didn't really die. It was just that it looked like he died. And that's what happened to Arthur Conan Doyle. He had to bring Sherlock back. And he had grown tired of writing Sherlock. It didn't matter because people love the character so much. And to this day, we're still talking about Sherlock, right? It's crazy, but it's true. And that's what happens. And so you have to, in reference to Audrey's question, when you have a character that people love, that is something that you treasure, and it's also something that you have to, you got to be careful with it, because people, there's a trust. Okay, so in the story, and I know I ran over, but we're almost done. In the story post this week, we spoke about pacts, right? Agreements that people make. When you're an author, you make a pact with your readers. There's a certain trust that is extended to an author, right? Whether it be a new one or a veteran that you read for whatever, for many years, there's a certain trust. It's an unspoken one, but it's, I'm going to write a story that you're going to enjoy. That's the author's side. And the reader says, I'm going to read a story where the author is not going to betray the trust that I'm placing in him by doing something completely across the board, opposite of what he would normally do in a story, unless it's to serve a greater story, and I'm going to be okay with it later on, right? But yeah, Jeanette, that's yeah, that's kind of like, okay, I'll give you another example real quick, but yeah. So that pact can't be broken, right? You can't break that pact. If you break that pact, you risk losing your readers, okay? It's that simple. Learn the pact. As an author, I'm going to write a story you're going to enjoy. I'm going to present characters you're going to love or hate, depending on how they're presented to you. And I'm going to promise you a world that you will enjoy spending time in. That's the promise that the author makes to a reader. The promise the reader makes to an author is, I'm going to read your story. I'm going to jump into this world. I'm going to suspend disbelief. I'm going to enjoy your characters as you present them to me, with the knowledge that you're not going to stray too far from the characters the way you're presenting them to me. When authors forget that, or when authors deviate from that, that's when they start losing readers. And you can go back and read authors and see where they lost their readership. It's usually breaking that path. Stephen King's Misery is the ultimate caution. Yes, I read Misery first as a book. It never became a movie, and I was like, whoa. And then I saw the movie with Kathy Bates, was so great in that movie. And James Caan was also really good. Yeah, and I said, yeah, readers can get really invested. Okay. The last other example I wanted to give, Janessa, is Kevin Hearn and the Iron Druid. The last book, I still haven't read the last book of the Iron Druid because of what he did to Atticus. So this goes to show you how much it matters. I didn't even get to the last book. I had heard about the last book. People had spoken to me about it because they knew I was reading the Iron Druid Chronicles, and they told me certain parts. I said, "Don't spoil it," and they said, "No, it's not a matter of spoiling it. I gotta tell you what happened, because you're not gonna be happy with what's happening, with what happened." And they told me, and I was like, "I can't read this book. I can't, because of what he did to Atticus. I can't read that." No, they don't always pay. They don't pay the bill. They don't. They don't. Happy endings always in romance. Happy HEAs are needed, but in other stories, you don't need HEAs all the time. Because that's kind of boring too. You need excitement. You need to make it real. All right, I gotta go because it's late, and yeah, I know, Linda. I haven't read the last book. I was up to 6. And I own 7, and I was told, I was like, no, can't do it. I can't. I haven't read anything else by Kevin Hearn. I know he's written other things like Ink and Sigil and The Plague of Giants and all that other stuff, but I haven't. Guys, wow. Today's episode was amazing because you guys make it amazing. I want to wish you all a fantastic, amazing start to your weekend and weekend as well. Get a lot of rest, get a lot of sun, drink a lot of water, all very important. Go out there, hug the people you love. That's really important too. Hug your fur babies. There's been some sad days with fur babies recently. So, be amazing things. Do and be amazing things, My 3 B's, you know them. Be kind. It costs nothing to be kind. Please take a moment to be kind to someone today, because you don't know what people are going through in life. And sometimes people put up a facade and everything looks perfect on the outside, and inside their world is crumbling. And all they need is someone to be kind to. A kind word, a kind gesture. Just be kind. It doesn't cost you anything to be kind. Please be kind. Be unstoppable. Don't let anyone stop you in the pursuit of what you want to do in your life. Be unstoppable. Don't make reasons. Don't make excuses. Be unstoppable. And be uncommon, which you hear me say a lot these days. Because there's only one of you in the entire universe. This is what I tell my kids all the time. There's only one of you, only one. So be uncommon. Recognize that you are uncommon. Be uncommon. Embrace your uniqueness and amazingness. And have a great weekend. You guys, let's put on the music because why not? Because the music is awesome. I'm gonna take off my scary face. Oh, I gotta shave, man. I'm getting fuzzy and scruffy. Okay, you guys have a great weekend. Let's close it out. Yes, Anthony, this stuff stories that I'm still inconsiderate I hear is good. So I might go into it. I own the series. Here's the thing. Before I end, I I still support these authors. I own all the inconsiderals. I bought the Plague of Giants stuff from Kevin Hearn. I still think that because he gave me great stories, and I still want to support him. I'm not angry with him. I'm just angry with that story. So one day I think I will read the last book of the Iron Druid Chronicles because I read the first one and they were amazing. So we'll see. Thank you all for being. Look, I want to just say thank you all for being here. You guys are amazing. You know, I can't do this without you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for reading the books. Thank you for being in the mob. You guys keep me grounded. You keep me sane. You keep me where I need to be at all times. And promise me to never let the hype get to my head. Never let me get too big for my britches, as they say. Always, feel free to, cut me down a few notches if you have to. Because sometimes, we kind of get lost. We lose ourselves. So thank you guys. Have a great weekend. And I'm going to put the music now. Let me just get my face out of here. I'll put Martin Simon.